Hi, my name is Adam Cox. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, phobia expert, founder of phobiaguru.com, and the UK's leading expert at eliminating phobias rapidly. Now, generalized anxiety disorder, also known as GAD or Panophobia, really is a broad phobia of everything almost. It kind of feels like everything is causing some form of anxiety. Now, quite often, it isn't the case that everything is causing anxiety, but more that there is sufficient things that are happening that keep people in this elevated state of anxiety. And I can relate to this because in my late teens, I had social anxiety disorder, but I also had several other fears that made it feel that I was in this constant state of anxiety. And it was so distressing that I became a recluse. I rarely left my room for around about almost a year, only going out to get essentials from the supermarket just to live. But it was a miserable existence. And the very reason that I specialize in phobias and anxiety now is because of how distressing it was to have this generalized anxiety as someone in my late teenage years. So if you have this fear, this generalized anxiety disorder or panophobia, I can empathize hugely because I've been there and experienced just how debilitating it is. In my own case, the idea of leaving my room in a tiny one bedroom studio flat had my heart racing out of my chest. I used to have one of those polar heart rate monitors, and I could see my heart rate, and it was getting almost 200 beats per minute just at the idea of leaving my apartment. That's how severe the anxiety was in my case. So some of the symptoms of generalized anxiety is that everything feels like it's going to cause anxiety. There is this constant evaluation as to consequences and things not going well. You could have an elevated heart rate, elevated breathing rate. Quite often you might experience panic attacks. It's a horrible, horrible situation to experience. And a lot of people will try and cope with this by getting medical attention. But quite often, general practitioners or doctors, they don't know how to get to the root cause of this anxiety. So more often than not, they prescribe beta blockers, which are anti-anxiety medication, or antidepressants, mainly because the medical profession is in the industry of symptom management rather than getting to the root cause. They don't have the knowledge or the expertise to know what it is that causes generalized anxiety or panophobia. The implications for this type of fear are severe because effectively it stops people doing almost everything. It stops social interaction. It stops people going outside. It limits people's ability to live their life. When I had this fear, it was like I was living in a prison of my own making. So it's one of the most debilitating fears because everything feels like it could cause a panic attack. Everything feels overwhelming in the sense of anxiety that it creates. So not a nice phobia or form of anxiety at all. The way in which it's possible to cure this, if you use the word cure, or eliminate the severity of the anxiety, and the thing to know about anxiety is that it's not an on-off switch. It's more like a dimmer switch. So you can have high levels of anxiety and then lower levels of anxiety. And the goal is to get the anxiety levels down to a level low enough to make life manageable again. At the moment, it probably feels so intense that nothing is possible. So you have to break it down in terms of the individual components so it's not so overwhelming. And what I noticed in my own experience about generalized anxiety and social anxiety is that it's a bit like a house of cards. And if you can deal with 2 or 3 fundamental fears, then a lot of the other fears are built on the foundation of the earlier fears. And if you deal with the foundation, the cornerstone of the fears, a lot of the secondary fears just go away. So it is possible. There is light at the end of the tunnel. You don't have to live with this fear. Generally, people work with me in 2 main ways. A phobia download course, which I would suggest if you have just a fear of an animal like spiders, or fear of heights, that phobia course is pretty good. I wouldn't recommend it in this case. You need something much more tailored to you. So a lot of people choose to work with me one-on-one, and there should be some kind of link near to this video. If you're watching on the site or on YouTube, there'll be a link nearby that can enable you to schedule a free 30-minute consultation call to see if I'm in a position to help you alleviate these levels of anxiety and get you moving in the kind of direction you want to take your life. If you have generalized anxiety disorder and you experience anxiety all the time, please share your experiences in the comments, because that's going to make other people with this condition feel that they're not alone, which is actually really helpful. If you know anyone with panophobia or generalized anxiety disorder, please share this video with them because they might find it useful. And equally, if you have any questions about this type of anxiety or generalized anxiety, put them in the comments and I'll reply as soon as I can. And if you are interested in possibly working with me or learning more about panophobia or generalized anxiety disorder, please try and find more information on my website, which is phobiaguru.com. Thank you.